There you go. This took me a little while to get to, but it's pretty dang good. I might try experimenting with drums and stuff. Like if we bring in a drum loop. I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep the drum loop or not. What you just heard is what we're going to be making in this video. The Mexican marimba is the primary instrument we're going to be using. It might actually be the entire instrument. I haven't actually made it yet, so this will be kind of fun. But you can hear it's got a really interesting sound. There are resonators inside of it that give it that sound. So the low keys especially have this resonance. Sounds like a distortion is on them, but it's actually the resonators. And as you go higher, it becomes less pronounced. It's still there. It does great with things like tremolos. Also like plucky things. Stuff like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the articulations in the mixer. And before we dive into the plugin, because I want to do a quick overview, there's not a ton to cover and we can jump into composing. But I also want to briefly just tell you I got it for free from Libre for the purposes of review. The asking price, it's on sale. I'm not sure how frequent sales are, but it is 25 bucks right now and it is normally $61. And let's dive into the actual plugin. So it's loaded up, by the way, in the Rhapsody Player, which loads a bunch of different libraries from Libre. So when you get it, you'll get the Rhapsody Player and then you download it through their hub. And then that will automatically show up in the Rhapsody Player when you log in. But over here, we have our articulations. So these are the different things the instrument can do. So we have a sustained version. And if I play a long low note, here is the muted version of the same thing. So you can hear the difference in timbre there. Sustained. Muted. So if I were to play a musical phrase with these. And if we were to go over to muted. That's the difference. This is a very dry library, even with the room mic on. And so I usually like to have a reverb going because it's just extremely dry. It gives you options down the line with the kind of reverb you want to add. Here is the soft mallet. So this is the low end. And this is it with the hard mallet. So you can kind of hear the difference. And here is the muted version of that. And yeah, so let's play a phrase with these. Here is the muted version. You get the idea. So that's them. As far as the mixer goes, you can turn the volume off, but if you're not going to be using them, like if you're going to just turn it off, I recommend just taking these off because I believe this also unloads them. And that saves you some memory, so maybe worth doing. But this is the close mic. We'll just demo this on one of them because it is kind of, it would be a lot to go through like every single instance of this. So that is the close. Here is the overhead. Some of these have stronger left-right panning feels to them. And I think it changes per thing. Like here it is on muted. See how much more stereo that is? Like as far as, it's not really far to the left. We're on the sustained soft. Definitely sounds more to the left. And so that's just something I noticed as I went through this. And then here is the room. Again, we have a strong left vibe on this one. If we go over to the muted, no such vibe. Let's try the muted soft. Also very center. So it's just kind of a little inconsistent there. It's an interesting thing. So let's actually do some composing. I find myself not generally wanting to switch between them. I generally pick one and just use that. And if there's a note that I want to hit slightly softer, or maybe a tremolo to be slightly softer, I might go to a muted version of it. I really like the muted soft mallets, probably my favorite of the bunch. So we're gonna use that one. The idea I have is we're gonna pick a nice tempo. Maybe I'll improvise a sec to get my bearings. I'm going to turn on all the mics and mix them all in at the same. And I'm also going to bring in a reverb. So this one is Paragon. It's kind of an expensive reverb, just a heads up. But you can use any reverb. I'm just using it because I have it. I feel like I should use it. And this is the cave entrance. It is just a nice short reverb. I may change it later depending on how I feel about how the track is progressing. My intention is to keep it just to the Mexican marimba and not add a bunch of instruments. And I want to stay to mostly major chord progressions and focus on these interesting tremolo style things. So I want to go maybe C major, F major, G major, F major, C major, like really basic 1-4-5-4 stuff. So something like this. And I know my tremolos leave something to be desired. We are going to touch it up a bit. And I just want to create like a small loop just to show you sort of what it's like to work with it. We'll just tap it in. Something like that, you know. Sing a hum, a little thing, gives you sort of a vibe for it. I'm going to play a little bit and see if I can nail it. Maybe I'll get something good. I plan on using the score dump feature, but I like to have the metronome rolling when I do this so that I am playing to the tempo and it's not slightly off on some other tempo. Okay, I think I got something. This took longer than I thought it was gonna. For you, it's instant, but for me, that's probably the best one I'm gonna get. I gave up with the metronome. It just wasn't working for me. I wound up going for using a drum loop. Does better. So there's some timing issues, a lot of little timing issues, a couple wrong notes, like extra notes being hit that shouldn't have been hit. Velocities are pretty much, they sound fine. I'm not worried about velocities in this case. And so I'm just going to go through and clean this up and just nudge notes, correct note pitches. And I guess briefly, so what I generally do when I'm doing this, you could quantize, but quantization usually just, it ain't the same. Some notes need to be a little bit ahead. Some need to be a little behind. There's these like slight differences. You lose a lot of this stuff with quantization. Now, with the tremolos, I'm trying to line the first one up. I try to keep the stacks somewhat close. There was one stack I had to bring in, like the notes were more separated, something like that. And so I brought them in to be a bit tighter. But I generally try to have them end on the beat. And I might do this with the metronome, but I don't find it like super important usually for me to do it with the metronome. And then I'll just preview. See here, you can suddenly feel all the jerkiness. That's my playing not being great. So we're gonna bring these in. These should be hitting much closer. I won't worry about the notes. Like, it's okay if one's slightly ahead. That's just how it is. This looks like a goof, especially if you see a large difference in velocity. That could sometimes be a red flag. Not always. Sometimes it's not. See, this one probably could be a touch closer. I think I want it like this based on previous patterns that I played. And then this tremolo is way off the beaten path here. This should be further back for sure. These are kind of halfway, so that's fine. These could be a little bit further back. I don't need it to be right on its tremolo, but yeah, something like that. So that's basically what I'm doing. It takes a while. You got to listen in small chunks, and then you got to preview in bigger ones to see if you like the changes that you did. And a lot of it, I start off by just sort of eyeballing, like this one's way too far back. These line up. Now this F might be a little too far forward. I might scoot that back a touch. And this one I might scoot back just a little bit, nudge it towards the right location. And let's see how that rolls. Yeah, and then we start from further back so you get sort of how it fits in the grander phrase. Oh, that's the end. Oh, and the end is actually pretty good. It's not that far off. See, this gives more of a rushed vibe when you do it like that, but sometimes it's more on point. Like this one's pretty close. So I think I'm just gonna nudge this one back a smidge and have this closer to the actual beat. And bring that in just like one. So they're tiny adjustments, but they stack up over an entire phrase like this. Yeah, something like that. So when you've got the first draft done, if you're really serious about it, you'll then go through the painful, listen to it from the beginning. If something strikes you as odd, you stop it right there. You fix the thing. You go back to the beginning and you listen from the beginning. And you do that until you can get the whole way through. This gives you context for where things go. And I find I make much better decisions when I do this. It just takes forever for things. You all of a sudden you notice notes that sounded fine in the little blur, but when you play the whole thing, you realize that doesn't sound like the right note. And so because of what's come before. So it's a little bit painful. You're only going to hear it once, but I have stopped it numerous times to fix tiny things. So here you go. There you go. This took me a little while to get to, but it's pretty dang good. I might try experimenting with drums and stuff. Like if we bring in a drum loop. I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep the drum loop or not. There's potential there. I think by itself, though, it's a fun little backing thing. It could be in the background of a game or something. And that is the Mexican marimba. That's how I would typically use it. I don't think this is something I would write in with my mouse one by one, the notes. I tend to play stuff in, refine that, and also there's a practicing phase until I get something that I like and I think sounds cool. Generally produces better phrases than stuff I would write in by hand. Real quick, one feature I didn't know is the round robins. This is super important for an instrument like this, and I believe there are 12 of them per note. So an incredible number of round robins. Like that still sounds really good. You don't get that machine gun style effect with these samples. And it really comes across in this. What do you think of this instrument? Let me know down below. Is it something that you're like, oh yeah, I want to add this to my toolkit? Would you rather have something else? How does it stack up in your composing workflow? Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos and have a blessed day.